about the problem of evil and suffering, and this is not an argument whatsoever. This is more so just a line of thought, to be honest. But I'm gonna try not to make points and pivot away and stuff. So um, first, just acknowledging that there is evil and suffering that's hard to wrestle with. You can just on a subjective level pinpoint something on the news, single it out, and say, why would God allow this event to happen? And I do think that there is a capacity for a certain level of evil and suffering that we do have in this world, and there's a cap to it. And I say that because we don't have an infinite amount of suffering and evil. There is good things, and we can imagine a world that's 1,000 times worse than this world. Say 1,000 times more conscious experience, 1,000 times more suffering, so that there's 1,000 times more conscious experience of 1,000 times more suffering. Likewise, we can imagine a world that's 1,000 times better than this world. So we're clearly on some sort of spectrum here, and I'm not sure if it's fair to say where we are on that spectrum from our subjective stance. But hypothetically, I could take this world and I could add something to it, make it a little bit better, move us up on the spectrum, and I could give it to you. You could add something to it, make it a little bit better, and we could keep going. And eventually, if we don't stop, at least we would arise to where there's not even just lesser goods, but there's just goodness itself, right? And which I would call union with God. And so one might say, why not just create us there? And I think you'd have to have pretty substantial evidence to have confidence that an all-knowing God could not have sufficient reasons to not just create us in paradise immediately. And I emphasize immediately because I do believe in heaven, right? So why not create us in a world that's just a lot better than this one that we're currently in? Say this new hypothetical world, the worst thing in this world is a broken leg. That's the absolute worst thing in this world, this new world. Well, I think by ignorance and contrast, just by how different this world is than that one, and how just we would just not even be able to fathom how much worse that world could be. I think it's very possible that in that world we would be asking, why is there a God making a world where there's broken legs? This is horrible. I think the broken legs would be completely catastrophic for us, right? We can only judge suffering against the actual backdrop of what we've experienced. And I think it's fair to say that if we lived in a world that was 1,000 times worse than this one, then perhaps we would be asking, why weren't we created in maybe not the perfect world, but this world that we are currently in, that perhaps it would be close to paradise. And obviously this is just demonstrating some sort of epistemic humility, but I do think that one would have to provide pretty substantial evidence that an all-knowing God could not have sufficient reasons to permit this finite amount of suffering wherever we fall on this mystery scale, and also that an infinite God cannot reconcile and compensate for all this finite suffering if this God is truly infinite, truly all-powerful, and truly all good.